The coffee that ended a cop's career. Move it, courthouse trash. Know your place. Officer Marcus Sullivan didn't whisper it. He said it loud enough for the early morning chill to carry his words across the empty parking lot. Then, with a smirk that reeked of arrogance, he tipped his paper cup and poured lukewarm coffee right onto the shoulder of the black woman walking past him. The brown liquid soaked through her elegant coat, dripping onto the concrete. She didn't flinch, didn't shout. She simply looked up, calm and composed, and said, "What's your badge number?" Officer Sullivan chuckled, amused by his own cruelty. "Good luck with that complaint, sweetheart. You're nobody." It was 6:30 a.m. in the shared lot between the local courthouse and the federal building, a space where two worlds met, one governed by city officers and the other by federal justice. The woman, briefcase in hand, had been walking toward the federal entrance. To Sullivan, she was just another entitled civilian strutting where she didn't belong. What he didn't know was that this nobody would soon destroy his entire career. The story he thought would save him. 3 hours later, Officer Sullivan was sitting in an interrogation room, leaning back in his chair as if he owned the place. His partner, Officer Johnson, sat quietly beside him, eyes fixed on the table. Across from them was Detective Lisa Carter from Internal Affairs, calm, sharp, and known for seeing through every lie thrown her way. Sullivan started spinning his story before she could even press record. "Detective, I've been walking this beat for 15 years. I know trouble when I see it. That woman came rushing through the parking lot like she owned the courthouse. I was standing there minding my own business, and she bumps into me. Coffee spills, total accident. But she gets loud, demanding my badge number, threatening to file a complaint. You know the type." He leaned back with a smirk, confident in his performance. "Courthouse people always act like they're above the law. Clerks, paralegals, attorneys, all attitude, no respect. Someone's got to remind them who keeps the streets safe." Detective Carter kept her expression neutral. "Tell me about the coffee, Officer Sullivan." He shrugged. "I told you, accident. She walked into me, it spilled, she got aggressive. End of story." But it wasn't the end of the story, not even close. He didn't mention how he had watched her from the moment she stepped out of her car, how he shifted positions deliberately to intercept her path, how he timed his step and tilt of the cup perfectly. To him, this was just another lesson to a woman he thought had too much confidence. He had done it before, many times, and always walked away untouched. A witness hesitates. Detective Carter turned to Officer Johnson. "What did you see?" Johnson shifted uncomfortably. I arrived just after it happened. Marcus was upset, said the woman bumped into him and got confrontational." Carter's eyes narrowed. "You didn't actually see the incident?" "No, ma'am, but she did seem calm. Too calm, maybe." Carter said nothing, but her pen stopped moving. That word, calm, always appeared in reports where officers tried to twist facts. Calm victims were often painted as manipulative, emotional ones as unstable. Either way, the victim always lost, but this time would be different. The woman they underestimated. Across the street, inside the federal courthouse, Security Chief Michael Torres was going over the morning logs when a guard mentioned something odd. "Chief, you know Judge Williams came back today, right? After her 3-month leave?" Torres nodded. "Yeah. Why?" "She came in through the rear entrance around 6:30, said there was some kind of issue in the parking lot, something about a cop and spilled coffee." Torres froze. "Judge Amara Williams?" "Yes, sir." He looked at the monitor showing the security camera feeds. "Pull the footage from the parking lot now." Truth in the conference room. Hours later, the same sterile room where Sullivan had told his story now held a very different atmosphere. Judge Amara Williams sat poised, her coffee-stained coat hanging neatly on the chair behind her, silent, undeniable evidence. Detective Carter began. Please describe what happened this morning. At approximately 6:28 a.m., Amara said evenly, I parked in space F7 and began walking toward the federal entrance. Officer Sullivan, badge number 4729, moved directly into my path, holding a disposable coffee cup. He said, quote, "Move it, courthouse trash, know your place." Then he poured the contents of his cup onto my shoulder. Her tone was steady, almost clinical. His arm was extended deliberately. The angle and force of motion made accidental spillage impossible. Detective Carter looked up. "You're certain it was intentional?" "Completely." His expression confirmed it. When I requested his badge number, he replied, "Good luck with that complaint, sweetheart. You're nobody." Carter paused. The composure, the precision. This was no ordinary complainant. "May I have your full name for the record?" "Dr. Amara Williams." "And your place of employment?" "The federal courthouse, judicial wing, 3rd floor." Something shifted in Carter's expression. Only judges had chambers on the 3rd floor. "You're a federal judge." "Yes," Amara said simply. "And this morning was my first day back from family leave." For the first time that day, Detective Carter felt her stomach tighten. The civilian Sullivan had assaulted wasn't just an attorney or staff member. She was one of the most respected judges in the entire district.
The unraveling. As Amara continued, every word was exact, every detail sharp. She described the timestamp on her phone, the witness who saw everything, Dr. Michael Torres, the courthouse psychiatrist, and the camera positions that would have caught the entire act. When she finished, Carter said quietly, "Thank you, Judge Williams. I'll handle this personally." That night, as Sullivan bragged to his fellow officers that the complaint wouldn't stick, Detective Carter was already gathering every report he'd ever filed. By midnight, a disturbing pattern emerged. 12 complaints in 5 years, 12 black civilians, all dismissed. Old women, young men, professionals. Each case described accidental contact, spilled drinks, misunderstood resistance. Every time the same language, every time internal review cleared him. But this time his victim had power and the patience to use it. A judge at her desk. That evening, Judge Amara Williams sat alone in her home office. Her black judicial robe hung from its stand, casting a long shadow across the room. Diplomas from Harvard and her federal appointment certificate lined the wall, but her focus was on the file open on her screen. Officer Marcus Sullivan's complete disciplinary record. She scrolled slowly, reading each name, each excuse. Dorothy Jenkins, 67, grocery bags knocked to the ground, case dismissed. Marcus Thompson, 24, drink poured during traffic stop, written warning only. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, 35, shoved against her car, labeled a misunderstanding. Different victims, same story. It wasn't incompetence, it was a system built to protect men like Sullivan. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "How was your first day back, sweetheart? Remember to rest." Amara smiled faintly. Her mother, once a civil rights activist, had always told her, "When you have power, you use it to protect those who don't." She looked at her reflection in the dark window. "Then that's exactly what I'll do." The call that changed everything. She dialed a number she hadn't called in years. "Judge Carter," came a familiar voice, her retired mentor, the woman who had guided her through law school and her federal appointment. "Margaret, I need your advice," Amara began, recounting everything, the assault, the investigation, the pattern of cases she'd uncovered. Her mentor listened silently, then said, "Amara, this isn't just about you. It's about every person that officer's hurt and every complaint the system buried. You can't let this vanish into paperwork." Amara's voice was steady. "I won't. But I also can't sit as judge on this matter. I have to stay within the law." "Then do it the right way," Judge Carter replied. "Recuse yourself, but shine a light so bright that no one can bury the truth again." Justice in motion. That night, Amara composed a detailed email to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. She included everything: the security footage, timestamps, witness accounts, patrol records, and the names of all 12 prior complainants. Her message ended with a single line: "Justice demands accountability, not just for me, but for every voice that was silenced." She sent it. Then she contacted Dr. Torres, who confirmed he'd witnessed the entire event and was willing to testify. Within 24 hours, Internal Affairs had already cross-checked his statement with the video footage. It showed exactly what Amara described: Sullivan stepping into her path, smirking, tilting his cup, and pouring coffee on her shoulder. There was no accident. There was intent. The fall of Marcus Sullivan. By the end of the week, headlines exploded. Local officer under investigation after assaulting federal judge. Pattern of racist misconduct uncovered in courthouse district. Within days, Sullivan was suspended without pay. His text messages from that morning were retrieved. Messages mocking self-important courthouse people. One even said, "Gotta remind them who's boss around here." When confronted with the footage, his smirk vanished. For years, he had relied on silence, on people being too scared, too powerless, or too disbelieved to fight back. But this time, he'd poured coffee on the wrong shoulder. Judge Amara Williams didn't need to raise her voice. The evidence spoke louder than words. Her complaint became the cornerstone of a federal civil rights case that forced the city to overhaul its internal affairs process. Training programs across the country used his case as a model of what unchecked bias looks like when finally exposed to sunlight.
The quiet victory. One evening, after the media frenzy began to fade, Judge Williams sat once again in her office. Her coat, still faintly stained despite cleaning, hung beside her robe, a quiet reminder of what had happened. She wasn't angry anymore. She was resolute. Because it was never just about Marcus Sullivan. It was about a system that let people like him hide behind badges and paperwork. About the women and men whose dignity was spilled like that coffee, dismissed, ignored, forgotten. Now, none of them would be forgotten again. She looked at her mother's photo on her desk and whispered, "You were right. When you have power, you use it." The coffee stain that once marked humiliation had become a symbol of justice. A small brown reminder that truth, when documented and pursued, has the power to end careers, change systems, and restore dignity. And for Officer Marcus Sullivan, it was the last drop that finally overflowed the cup.